So today I have the real pleasure to be speaking to a very special person to me. This is actually the first time that I'm speaking to this person face to face, but for many, many years I have been reading her books, listening to her podcasts, even translating some of her articles into Greek. So I feel that I know this person very well indeed. And so now from the United States, this is Frederica Mathewes-Green, here and now.
Here I am, right now.
Here you are indeed. Now it's 9 o'clock there in the United States. It's 4:15 here in Greece. So good morning.
So good morning. And as you see, I'm going to sip from my coffee cup from time to time.
Yes, that's absolutely fine.
Yeah,
It's a great joy, speaking to you. And thanks for this opportunity, Frederica. I'd like to begin by asking you, how was your, I'm going to describe a bit your personal experience. How was your Lent and Easter? And in general, what's the situation like in the United States at the moment?
Yes. As you know, we didn't take it as seriously, as quickly as Greece did. And we've had some significant loss of life in the whole country, 100,000 deaths to date. Fortunately, I live in a very small town in the mountains in Tennessee. Most of the time I've been writing, I've been describing my church, Holy Cross Church, Antiochian Orthodox, which is right near Baltimore, which is very near Washington, D.C. I could have driven from my house to the White House in 45 minutes. Okay. So Baltimore has suffered, but my husband retired. He's 73 now, I'm 67, so we're old
Father
people.
Gregory.
Father Gregory, yes. So he finally retired from this little Orthodox church that we started in Baltimore. And our son is pastor of the Greek Orthodox Church in a little town in the Smoky Mountains of Tennessee. There's only, I think, 50,000 people in our area. So we have not had a terrible problem with the virus. I think we've only had about 50 cases in the whole county. So it hasn't been too bad here. Now, what affects it, however, is that my daughter-in-law, Presbytera Jocelyn, has very severe lupus, which has totally damaged her immune system. And a couple of years ago, she was in the hospital, and it was very, very serious. So with the disease, we're more worried about her than anything else, and that has motivated us to wear our masks when we go out and to not go out very often and take all those other steps. So it's been a stringent kind of a Holy Week and Pascha and the whole Pascha season for us here.
And the churches were celebrating the liturgies and the services during the Holy Week or not? I mean, what happened?
No, the bishop at first told us that we should have no more than 10 people in the building. So that would include the priest, an altar server, a couple of chanters, and a few members of the congregation if they came in. Mm-hmm. But then as we got closer to Holy Week, the bishop said, no, it should only be just those people who have work to do in the church, clergy, chanters, and altar servers, nobody else. And so there was, fortunately, I'm a chanter. I'm not a very good chanter, but I'm one of the chanters. And my husband, of course, was a clergyman, the retired priest. And so we were able to be at most of the services.
And your son is the priest at the church.
Yeah, he's the priest. Right? That's right. And because of his wife's severe illness, he spent he spent all of Lent right up until Pascha Day at our house, trying to minimize the risk to her that he wouldn't bring something home to her. Yes. At Pascha, he did go home. So far, so good. The 3 children missed him very much. They had him sneak into the house and hide. And when the children came home from a walk, the mother said, "There's a surprise in the living room. Go look in the living room." And the kids ran in and they said, "Hi, Dad. What's the surprise?"
And what about the night of the resurrection? Can you describe me your Easter Sunday?
Yes, that was It was so different, being so few of us. I think most of the parishes in America decided not to do it at midnight, because the only way people would see it would be from home at their screens. So some did it in the evening on Saturday. We did it at 7:30 Sunday morning. So it was past dawn, but it was still pretty early. And it was only about 7 of us, I think, with all the altar service and chanters. And it was sad, you know. We went out in the cold dawn light and walked around the church and sang and came back. And one of the chanters was holding up a laptop the whole time as we went, so people could see us.
Streaming, yes.
But when we came back into the church, after going around the outside, we found that one of the members of the church, who is also an altar server, had done a wonderful thing. He'd gotten everybody in the congregation to send him a photograph, and he had taped the photos to each of the chairs, and on each chair he put a glass container with a burning candle in it. And so as my son came back in and saw his congregation there, everybody holding their candles, so to speak, it was very moving for him, and it helped, really. It helped us feel like people were with us as we knew in spirit. It made them visible to us, at least through these photos.
Yes, how amazing.
Yeah.
I'm trying to sort of imagine the scene of entering the church and seeing all these photos and candles and the empty chairs. It's really,
I did post
who could
on
imagine this happening? I mean,
it's unprecedented, isn't it?
Yeah, it is.
I will put in, I have a YouTube channel just under my name. I put in that short 5-minute video of my son reciting the Pascha sermon of St. John Chrysostom. And then afterwards, I turned around and I panned the congregation. Okay. So you can see what it looks like with the photos and the candles.
I will.
Very, very poignant and very moving.
And Frederica, the next thing I would like to ask you is about the feelings that we all have during this period. So the prevailing feeling, as far as I can interpret it, and I think that I'm right, is that of fear and of anxiety about what lies ahead, about our profession, about our very life, I might add.
Yes, of course.
So what do you think is the Christian, may I use the word response, attitude, I don't know, to these feelings that we all experience? How should we sort of see these feelings in a proper Christian light?
Yes, you know, I think the thing that's so difficult about it is that our emotions keep fluctuating. It's like we can't come to a resting point. We think of this and then we think of that, and we jump around all the time. And there is something that it occurred to me this morning when I was looking at your questions that probably would not be known to, I'm looking for where I wrote it down over here on a piece of paper.
Yep.
It's very familiar in America, almost a cliche, but I guess it would not be something anyone in Greece had ever encountered. It's a prayer that was written by a Protestant theologian about the middle of the 20th century. And it's so popular, it became one of those popular sayings that people would embroider or they would, you know, frame, and you saw it everywhere. And it's called the Serenity Prayer. This is what helped me. Serenity, like peacefulness.
Who wrote the prayer?
Who wrote it? His name is Reinhold Niebuhr. Okay. That's Niebuhr, Reinhold Niebuhr, American Protestant theologian. Okay. And this prayer, I think, is what helped me to deal with the crisis and to come to a landing place, you know, so that my emotions are not going up and down all the time. It's a resolution. And here's the Serenity Prayer. He said, God, grant me the serenity, the tranquility or peacefulness. God, grant me the serenity to accept those things that I cannot change, the courage to change the things that I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. The serenity to accept what I cannot change, the courage to change what I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. It's called the Serenity Prayer of Reinhold Niebuhr.
I think it's a beautiful prayer.
It is a beautiful prayer, and I was just a child the first time I saw it, and it hit me so hard. I thought, well, that would solve basically all your problems in life. Just heading into adult life, that sums it up.
Because
just
you
keep asking
Frederica,
God, give me wisdom. Yes,
listening to this prayer, I mean, I just wrote down the word acceptance and the word courage from this prayer. And you know, when you were reciting the prayer, I thought how one can come to this acceptance, because you know the fear, the illnesses, anxieties are part of our life, and I personally find it sometimes really, really hard to deal with it. So in a way, I don't want to sort of say the answer. My thought is that all we can do is actually put these feelings into a prayer. Do I understand correctly?
Yes, and so many of the Psalms express feelings of agitation, feelings of anxiety and fear and wanting to flee. The Psalms are a very good prayer book for us. And I have to say, in addition to serenity and courage, the third one is wisdom. Is that we need God to help us see the difference. Is this something I can change, or is this something I cannot change? If I can't change it, I just have to accept it. For me personally, I know it makes a difference that I don't have little children. You know, if you do, that makes it so much harder. If you have little children you have to care for. I'm 67. My husband is retired. We're on the other side of life. It is so much easier for me to say this prayer and to say to God, you know, as my husband and I both have, that if it's God's will that we get this illness, then we accept that. If it's God's will that we die, we're ready for that. Whatever his will is, we will go through it. And we want the wisdom to know what to do so that we'll know how to avoid illness if we can help it. But we also feel peacefulness. Yes.
You actually come to this, Frederica, was just the result of getting older as time goes by. I cannot believe it's just that.
I think it's partly that it helps that my husband and I talked it through. And we made decisions like, after reading what it's like to be on a ventilator, we both said we don't want to do that. We would leave the ventilators for younger people, but we don't want to go through that. That we had already, we had handmade beautiful coffins made for us, and we've got our coffins in the basement already. We asked a monastery to give us a burial place, and they did, and they already made the stone, which we weren't accepting, so our gravestone is in place with our names on it. All these little things have reconciled us to death as something that is inevitably coming. I think, too, that it is that when I saw that serenity prayer as a child, I decided very quickly that I was going to accept things that I knew I couldn't change. And I think that has made me calmer all my life. I can remember being in a little auto accident with a friend in high school, and she kept saying, "This is terrible, this is terrible." And I thought, why is she saying that? It already happened. You can't change it. You can't go back in time. Why is she upset? And through life, I've been like that. When other people are upset, I'm thinking, why are you upset about this? It already happened.
It is human, though, isn't it? I mean,
yes, I know. It's very human. And I think that and a lot of prayer have helped me become calm in every circumstance. You know, I hope I would be equal to any circumstance that arises, but I just don't get scared. I don't worry. I am at peace. Thanks be to God. I wish I knew how to share that with other people, like put it in little bottles and send it there. But God is good. God is always faithful. His plans for us are always the best plans that we could ever have.
So, Frederica, now, I mean, I have to ask you this. If you had to give sort of a personal advice to someone who has not reached that stage, like a practical thing to do, what this advice could be?
To pray more. I think that if you're feeling agitated, it's good to pray the Psalms. Just begin with the first Psalm and pray a few of them every day. Keep going through the Psalms. There are some wonderful books that are commentaries on the Psalms that help you to understand them and use them to express your feelings that are deep inside. And just keep surrendering the situation to God. You have to couple that with being very, very wise and making the right choices and being courageous and valiant to defend your family any way that you know, to ask for wisdom so you'll make the right decisions. Take every step you can to protect your family and to plan ahead. But as far as you're able, try to just surrender the end result to the Lord. He is able to bring good out of any circumstance. Keep your eyes open for the circumstances he's bringing to help you. We have a joke in America that's very popular about there was a flood and a man had to go up to the next floor, and then to the attic, and then out of the attic window and sit on the roof of his house. And he kept saying, Lord, I know you're going to save me. I'm just going to wait here and I'll see that you save me. And 3 times people came by in boats and said, do you want to get in the boat? I'll take you to land. And he said, no, God is going to save me. The end of the joke, of course, is that he drowns and he gets to heaven and he says, God, why didn't you save me? And God says, I sent you 3 boats. So,
amazing story. It's an amazing story.
So notice what God is doing to send you a boat. And just keep praying. Yeah.
Final question, Frederica. What have you personally learned from all this coronavirus story? Have this thing changed at all your approach to life and death? Is there anything you could say as a lesson from what we've been through?
I think there are 2 lessons. One is very practical and one is more spiritual. The practical lesson, I keep thinking about that the whole world now knows how to prevent yourself from getting a virus. And even when this virus is all gone, for the rest of our lives, we will know and we will teach our children about washing your hands after you touch certain things, about not touching your face in public, about being aware if somebody sneezes on you. We know what it used to be only doctors and nurses knew. That's now common knowledge, and I'm grateful for that. The spiritual lesson that I took away from it was that even though my husband and I were getting older and retired and all of that, we really had not looked ahead to the fact that death is closer to us now than it was when we began. And it caused us to have some good conversations with each other about our attitude toward death, our feeling that we've had very fruitful and very blessed lives. We have 14 grandchildren. I just have so much to be grateful for. And I receive so much love from other people. I'm so grateful for that. Talking through those things was really a spiritual step forward for me and for my husband, to say it out loud, verbally, to discover that we had the same thoughts and same feelings, and to feel a sense of tranquility as we go through these final years of our life. I have to say, I went to my doctor for a checkup, and she said, you know, how are you doing? Your health looks really good. You're in great shape. And I said, well, I had 2 of my grandparents live to be 96. And she said, well, then you have a whole third of your life still to go. And I never thought of it that way. So I may be around for a very, very much longer time, still writing books. By God's will, I pray it will be so.
Frederica, I would like to thank you very much for this lovely discussion. I want to extend my best wishes to you and your family, Father Gregory, your children and grandchildren. How many are they? 14, you said?
14. Yes, my son, one of my sons has 8 children, and the youngest is Nectarios.
Right. Well, in Greek we say nasazisou, which means literally, may they live.
Thanks be to God.
And thank you very much for this discussion, Frederica. Looking forward to see you in Greece at some point.
Yes, yes, I'll look forward to that. We'll have a good meal together, I know.
Yes, thank you.
Sure. So long.